People all over the world really only like a few reality TV shows. Pawn Stars on the History Channel has done this since 2009. It's a great mix of entertainment, history, and bargaining. Rick Harrison helped start the show and shop. He has worked hard to make the pawn shop business bigger and better for most of his life. Even though Rick is clearly committed to growth, most people don't know that he has been through a lot of personal challenges in court cases. Let's look at what happened to Rick Harrison and find out how he is doing now. Friends and family call him Rick Harrison. He was born on March 22nd, 1965, to Richard Benjamin Harrison and Joanne Rue Harrison. His parents had 4 children: Sherry, Joseph, Rick, and Chris. Rick was the middle child. Rick went through a terrible event early in life when one of his brothers, Sherry Joanne Harrison, died. Sherry was Benjamin and Joanne Harrison's first child. She was born with Down syndrome and died when she was 6 years old. Rick's dad was an American, in the Navy. Harrison went to San Diego, California with his family when he was 2 years old because his father was transferred there. Rick had a lot of problems after he started having seizures when he was 8 years old. He had to read a lot in bed because he had no other choice. This made him love books and reading for the rest of his life. Harrison got ideas from a series by John D. Fitzgerald called The Great Brain, which was about a Utah con artist named Tom D. Fitzgerald, who was 10 years old. He was very interested in history and physics. He really liked studying the Royal Navy from the late 1700s to the early 1800s. In San Diego, Harrison went to Taft Middle School. But he quit in the 10th grade to sell fake Gucci bags for $2,000 a week. In April 1981, Rick and his family moved to Las Vegas, Nevada because their parents' real estate business had failed. Rick had to deal with another problem when his girlfriend Kim got pregnant when he was 17. Rick bravely chose to become a dad even though he was still pretty young. The couple went through the terrible loss of their first child through a miscarriage. In spite of this, they didn't give up and got married in 1982. On April 27, 1983, they had their first child, Corey. He later became very important to his dad's business. After 2 years, they were happy to have their second child, Adam. Harrison and Kim split up in 1985, not long after Adam was born. Rick wasn't a single dad for long, though. He began dating Tracy only 9 months after getting divorced. Before getting married in 1986, they were together for about 8 months. Together, they were in charge of taking care of Corey and Adam. We've talked about how Rick's interest in physics and history helped his work. Because when his father opened a 300-square-foot used gold and silver coin shop on Las Vegas Boulevard South in 1981, Rick's knowledge of history really helped the shop do well because he could back up every piece with facts from history. But Rick was taking back cars at night. The family moved to a bigger place on Fremont Street after 5 years, but they had to move again after 2 years because they lost their lease. For a long time, Rick and his dad had wanted to turn the store into a pawn shop because they thought it was the next natural step. But they couldn't because of a law from 1955 in Las Vegas that said the amount of pawn licenses given out was based on the number of people living in the city. So they plan to apply for a pawn license as soon as there are 250,000 people living in the city. In 1989, after some court problems, they finally got their pawn license. The father and son started the gold and silver pawn shop at 713 Las Vegas Boulevard South in the same year. It is close to the Las Vegas Strip. At first, the dad and son shop was mostly about selling unique sports gear and historical things. One thing that did very well was jewelry. Their business grew and became well known in Las Vegas over time. When they reached 2005, they were lending millions of dollars every year and making hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest. It became famous the next year for having rare sports things with interesting stories behind them, like a football player Brock Williams' 2001 Super Bowl ring. They also helped gamblers who needed money for petrol to get home by letting them sell things. As they got bigger and more famous, the History Channel became interested. This is how Pawn Stars came to be. The first episode aired in July 2009. The idea for Pawn Stars came from Brent Montgomery and Colby Gaines of Left Field Pictures. They loved the wide range of interesting and sketchy pawn shops in Las Vegas in 2008. They looked for a family-owned shop to base a TV show on because they thought these places could have interesting personalities. They found the gold and silver pawn shop in the end, which was not far from the Las Vegas Strip, less than 2 miles. In 2001, this shop was the subject of a PBS program. Rick, who runs and owns the shop, had been wanting a show about it for years. Rick had been on an episode of Insomniac with Dave Attell back in 2003. HBO was first told about the show. They didn't like the original idea, but they let it be changed to make it more family-friendly. It was first called Pawning History, but they changed it to Pawn Stars because that was a better name for what they were making. The name is a fun play on the words Porn Stars. The show is shot at Las Vegas, Nevada's well-known gold and silver pawn shop. People most often pawn jewelry on Pawn Stars, but they also bring in a lot of other old or vintage things. The store has more than 10,000 things in stock. The store is closed to the public while they shoot, with only a few chosen customers being able to go inside. Because of the show, the Harrison family became well known. A lot of people watched it, liked it, and wanted more, which made the show grow and come back every year. Pawn Stars was the most watched show on the History Channel in January 2011. It was also the second most watched reality show after Jersey Shore. Rick Harrison's autobiography came out on June 7, 2011. They were allowed to pawn, deal, steal, and write about their life at the Gold and Silver. By June 26, 2011, it hit number 22 on the New York Times bestseller list. Rick split up with his second wife Tracy that same year. Rick Harrison, who had been divorced twice before, told his former girlfriend Deanna Burdett that they were going to get married the next year. Rick was pleased that the show was doing well and that his fan base was growing. In an episode of iCarly called I Lost My Head in Vegas, he, Corey, and Shumlee played themselves. After 4 days, Rick played the owner of an antique shop in an episode of a different show called The Middle. This is about the time he got married to Deanna Burdett in Laguna Beach, California. There are 3 stepdaughters named Serena, Kiana, and Marissa that Rick got from this marriage. Rick Harrison became the face of the MicroTouch 1 razor in January 2014. A shaving cream for guys, and was in a TV commercial for it. A few months after that, United Stuff of America, a show from the makers of Pawn Stars that showed interesting artifacts from important historical events, debuted on the History Channel. The History Channel's new game show, Pawnography, started airing in July 2014. On it, Rick, Corey, and Shumlee compete against other contestants to keep them from winning cash and things from the gold and silver pawn shop's inventory. But unfortunately, Rick and his family went through a string of terrible events. In June 2018, Rick lost his dad. Richard Harrison, who played the old man on the TV show Pawn Stars, died. Rick told his over 245,000 Instagram followers on Monday that his father had died, and that Parkinson's disease was the reason. A Harrison family representative revealed that the patriarch had died and shared the same statement that Rick had on Instagram. It was from the History Channel and said that they were sorry for the TV star's death. A statement from History and Pawn Stars says, "We are very sad about the death of our friend Richard the Old Man Harrison. He was a beloved member of the History and Pawn Stars family. We'll miss his wisdom and honesty. Our hearts are with the Harrison family during this difficult time." Rick was very sad when his father died and had to take care of his family and run the shop by himself. Then, in 2019, the COVID-19 virus hit, which hurt the business a lot and gave Rick a lot of problems to solve. Since a lot of people were having a hard time during COVID-19, you might have thought that pawn shops were doing very well. In the end, a pawn shop was the best place to go when you needed cash quickly. That wasn't true for many of these businesses, which is a shame. The first few weeks of the pandemic were better for business, but it didn't last long. Fox News talked to Pawn Stars star Rick, who said that COVID-19 had changed the pawn shop business. He talked about how hard it had been for the industry as a whole to get back on its feet. Most people were only doing things that were necessary at this point, so going to a pawn shop wasn't at the top of their lists. To make things even worse, Rick had to partly close his shop in March 2020 because there were so many cases. The tourist part of the business was stopped for 30 days, but the money-making part kept running. The shop's chief financial officer told the Las Vegas Review-Journal, "We kept buying assets and running the loan business through our night window 247 because obviously there were people who were hurting." Rick said that he and the rest of the people who worked at the popular gold and silver pawn shop were ready to work even harder to save their business. Back in April 2020, he told a Las Vegas news station, "We lowered the interest rate on items. We gave people more time to pick up their stuff." "We got it. I've lived in this town for a long time." She said, "It's given me a lot, and I always try to give back in that interview." Rick also said he thought the economy would get better in 6 months. We now know that wasn't true, which is a shame. The Daily Mail says that because of the COVID-19 plague in 2020, the gold and silver pawn shop only made $37,406. Normally, the shop makes over $1 million a year. Rick had to deal with the extra stress of getting a split from his third wife, whom he married in September 2020. TMZ got a hold of court papers that show Rick Harrison and Deanna Burdett have become so far apart that they can't stay married. Rick said in the suit that they can't get along as a married couple because their tastes, opinions, and interests have changed so much. TMZ also said that the split might not have been noticed because it happened while people were protesting George Floyd across the country. Rick told TMZ, "I got 3 great daughters out of it," referring to Deanna's 3 kids from her first marriage and saying that the second marriage didn't work out and that both people agreed to get a divorce. He also said that he was done with that. The new father-daughter photos he shared on Instagram make it clear that he still loves his stepchildren as much as his own. Along with his daughter, Rick spent the day off-roading with her on August 7th. He has said the same things about more than one of his stepdaughters. That's at least a good thing. Even though there were problems, Rick got through them all with the help of his son Corey and his best friend Austin Chumley Russell. In the following year, Rick married Amanda Palmer, his fourth wife, hoping that their life together would be better. But Rick's problems didn't end there. In February 2022, he had court problems with his mother, Joanne Rue. USA Today reports that Rick's mother, Joanne Harrison, has sued him over family property and who owns the gold and silver coin shop. Nevada State Court is where the legal case was filed. The people who are being sued are Rick Harrison, the gold and silver coin shop Harrison Properties, Jork Properties, and others. Sometimes it's hard to run a family business because money problems can make relationships fall apart. This is what happened to the son and mother, which is sad. Having fights over money really hurt Rick and Joanne's relationship. In her complaint, Rick's mother said that he had broken a promise because she had been married to his father for almost 60 years. Still, Rick made her sign over 51% of the pawn shop to him while she was in the hospital in the early 2000s, right after she woke up from a coma. She wasn't sure what she was writing, though. Because people who were following the story always thought he was a family-oriented guy who wouldn't hurt his family for money. In reality, Richard's wife got his 49% part of the pawn shop when he died in 2018. But it looked like her son never really gave her the business's full financial records. She said she didn't have the right paperwork for more than $500,000 in cash, even though she thought Richard did before he died. She told him that Rick had stopped sending her money from the business that her late husband owned. Rick used to send her $25,000 every month, but that stopped in 2020. Joanne was also going to court to try to get that sum back. Reports say that Joanne put in a temporary protection order against her son to stop him from selling any of the family's assets. This made many fans worry about Rick's wealth. The protection order also said Rick couldn't move or hide cash assets or do anything else that would make her less involved in the family business. It also asked for damages that weren't stated, a full list of assets, and a court order telling Rick he couldn't use his mom's money. He had to give up any control he had over her goods through a constructive trust. In a later interview about the case, Rick said, "The accusations are false, and I believe that my 81-year-old mother is being influenced by others for their own gain." Joanne's request said, "While Rick lives a comfortable life as a famous person in charge of all the family businesses and finances, I am scared and don't know if I will have enough money each month to pay for my medical bills and other costs." And stories said that Joanne was more than 80 years old and has a lot of health problems that need care around the clock, which can cost up to $15. 00 month. Rick said that the news was the only way he knew about the protection order request. "I've tried to get in touch with her many times in the last few months, but haven't been able to. Not only that, but one of the companies she is fighting is owned by my mother." The star of Pawn Stars looked confused about his mom's case. Even though Rick had already been through a lot, the worst thing was yet to come. Rick lost his son in a terrible accident in January 2024. A PR person in Clark County, Nevada, stated that the 39-year-old man died from an overdose of fentanyl and methamphetamine. The Office of the Medical Examiner for Clark County said the death was an accident. Concern grew when another neighbor saw that he hadn't been seen since January 17th. It was his owner who found him not responding, so they called the police. Posting a picture of himself and Adam at a restaurant on his Instagram account on January 19th to tell people about his son's death. "I will always love you. Adam, I love you," Harrison added a comment, by adding an image of a broken heart. A family spokeswoman, Laura Herlovich, said in a statement on January 22nd that Adam was said to have died from an overdose of fentanyl. "We are very sad about Adam's death. Please give us space while we grieve his death." In a statement, Rick also talked about the issue and said that the fentanyl problem in this country needs to be taken more seriously. Many people sent their sympathies after Rick's touching Instagram tribute to his son Adam. Donald Trump Jr. just said, "Man, I'm so sorry." Adam's bigger brother, Corey Harrison, also shared a picture of the two of them as kids on Instagram. He wrote, "I'll always love you, Bubba," in the post. Adam Harrison was not on Pawn Stars, but he is said to have worked at Gold and Silver Pawn and then became a plumber. At first, Corey said that Adam didn't seem interested in being on the show. Rick is always happy, even though he has a lot of problems and sadness in his life. He hides his pain behind a big smile. Donald Trump for president and Daniel Romer for Nevada's 3rd congressional district in 2020 were backed by Rick. He even thought about running for Nevada governor in 2022. Rick also said he might run for U.S. Senate in 2024. "Many people in the party have talked to me about it, and I always think about it. I'm still not sure what I want to do, but I'm not ruling anything out either." Rick became a Kentucky colonel in an episode of the Pawn Stars spin-off that was filmed in part at Locust Grove. In June 2023, he was made a member of the Kentucky Colonels in their Grand Parlor. When the governor of Kentucky gives an award, it's called the Kentucky Colonel. Rick doesn't work at the pawn shop all the time anymore. He is now the lead in the second season of Pawn Stars: Do America. Rick seems to be enjoying his semi-retirement and continued reality TV fame while spending time with his grandkids and family, even though he has been in some legal trouble.